flowing the energy doesn't mean to express it as it is.
Allowing yourself to feel what is popping up inside doesn't mean to act upon.
Yes. Welcome, guys, for one episode of Connection with the Soul here, straight from Atmayur. We're seated around to have a beautiful conversation about what happens when we feel hurt. What should we do? How to be self-responsible and ask support. And to have this conversation, we have these amazing members of this community co-creating a new earth through our own passion, love, consciousness. And I'm here, Sananda, talking to you. And I will begin this conversation with our friend Vinicius, asking him something that I think that's always very healthy, that is to take out the subjective aspect of the words, because sometimes there's a lot of things hidden in meaning. And I will ask you, what does it mean to you to be hurt?
Ooh. Okay, that's a very, very deep question. But it's, first of all, from my perspective now, it's to have a necessity that is not being fulfilled. That's it. That's when, like, my self tells me, like my body tells me, my lighter bodies also tell me that something is wrong. Something, some energy is not flowing. So, like, if the energy flows, it's pleasure, right? If it doesn't flow, it hurts, right? And when you feel hurt, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're suffering. It's just that there is a part of you that is telling, I need something that I'm not being fed.
Okay, and that is very tantric, right? That when the energy is flowing in the body, the feeling that is translated is pleasure, right? And when the energy is not flowing, there is some pain, right? And this pain, when it's not flowing, can be something chronic, right? And it's usually because out of resistance, right? Because when you say about suffering, you bring this dynamic, right? Because there is something that happened that hurt, so creates some kind of pain. And then if you resist that pain, if you don't allow it to flow, it becomes some sort of blockage. Okay.
The inability of letting that go.
Inability of letting that go. Yeah. And how usually you feel about how you deal when this happens? Today or even in the past, how you differentiate?
In the past, I used to create more and more pain. Just not only for me, but for everybody around, like trying to move.
That's how you differentiate.
In the past, I used to create more and more pain. Just not only for me, but for everybody around, like trying to move this energy using other people or like situations. So like I was, let me give you an example. Okay, at work, I was working like 8 hours straight, and then my boss comes and says like, okay, you didn't do that. And then it hits me like, like, oh my God, he said that I did. And then I go and I gossip with somebody else, like, but this is very long ago, like 5 years ago. And then I would use somebody else to move that energy, and then we both would feel a bit of pleasure of moving that energy, but actually the wound was getting bigger. Because I was also like not being taught, that taught me a lot. So I was always doing that, and that would create more and more pain. And by that, I just want to say that now I know that if I stop and look at the situation, I see that the necessity was not being fulfilled before because I was working 8 hours straight. And not listening to my feminine and to my emotions that were saying, stop a bit. And then when he comes, he's just the expression of what I was doing. And if I just now, with the knowledge that I received here in Atma and like from my spiritual path, right? I know that if I just step back and look at the situation, I can see that, and I can act in another way that would fulfill that necessity, and then the hurting feeling would be less, and the suffering would not even exist.
Or maybe even the situation in the aspect of self-responsibility.
Exactly.
But you said something that for me created a kind of doubt. So ask you, and maybe you can ask someone else if you feel
that's what
that is. You say, oh, we moved energy. I was moving energy with people. What do you mean by that? What is moving energy? Because sometimes people don't have a clue what you're saying. What is moving energy?
It's like can I ask somebody else to to answer it? And Lilith, could you help me with that? Just a little bit. Yeah. What is moving energy like in within you and like outside? What does that mean? And like how can you connect that with like a hurting feeling?
I thought that what you said first, like it's always about a necessity that's not being fulfilled, is right on the spot. And for me it's about, it's really easy to like, what is the energy that we are talking about is the emotions, right? So normally you feel intense emotion and you cannot deal with it in a conscious way or rational way. You just have that huge peak of intense energy, emotion, normally negative, and you just don't know what to do with that. So if you're not paying attention, if you're unconscious about what's going on, the first thing that you're probably going to do is try to move that. And we are raised in a society that's okay. That's how everybody does. Nobody knows how to do different, right? So if you're angry, just scream with someone around you, even if it's nothing about is they are not involved in the situation. Just go and scream with someone. Or you can you feel allowed to be angry for a long time. So you don't solve the situation, you don't talk about, you don't solve your feelings, and everything just keeping growing as a snowball.
Festering. So when you say this, you mean that moving energy is when we let it to overflow outside, to go to situations. Is that it?
Yeah. And
and how you do now? If you don't move outside, how you do now?
No, I still move outside, and I do believe that every human being living here, even if they are really focusing on the spiritual path and self-responsibility and growing, they will do. Because sometimes something just triggers you in a really bad spot and just flows out of you. And I do believe that this is okay as well. Even if you can stop along the way, you can use that situation. If you can stop along the way, you can use that situation to grow and learn and try to do something about it next time. So for me, this kind of moving the energy would be not taking full self-responsibility about what happened, and mainly about how you felt about it. We were talking about this week, everybody I thought was involved in the conversation, how we feel first, and then the mind comes with all the perfect justifications about why you feel that way, and that's okay to feel that way. And then you just start to create stories about what happened to justify how you're feeling.
The narratives of the
yeah, exactly. So every emotion should be allowed. It would be really nice for us as human beings to find a way of being okay with feeling whatever comes from, but in a conscious way where we are going to at least observe more aligned with what you want for your life. But yeah, I think that's the part that we struggle to do, right? It's to not deny one specific emotion because we say that's not a good one, or keep chasing the good ones because the other ones are not good enough. So it's always in search of something or in denial of something. So it gets tricky, but practice would solve a lot of stuff. Getting more connected with yourself and learning how to get to know your triggers could help a lot. And so we have a new guest here. Straight from Italy. Ale, and what do you think about what you're talking, like feeling hurt?
Okay, for me, feeling hurt, it means I feel hurt when a wound from the past is interfering with my present. Yeah. And and there is one part of me that believes that I am that wound. And when I feel I am that wound, then I fall down into this vicious circle, and I feel like I'm stuck, I cannot move forward, and what shall I do? And you know, one bad thought is leading into another bad thought, and it's creating this this loop, this bad vicious circle. And so that is why sometimes I tell myself circle. And so that is why sometimes I tell myself that it can be arrogant to just think that I can solve the situations alone. So sometimes, because I want to feel empowered. I want to feel, okay, I can do it by myself. I don't want to, I don't want to influence the other people with my emotions, so it's my stuff. I should solve all this alone. But then actually, when I feel I'm in this loop, the best thing to do is asking for help. And for me, asking for help is not to be arrogant. And to perceive that the other person can enlighten you to something that you cannot see in that moment because you are obscured by your own obscurity. You are not in that moment. You are not enlightened. And so
for you,
for me, there is no separation actually, because I sometimes I find myself that my mind is separating. So the ego, sometimes to protect, is just separating things. So there is this thing, and then there is another thing. But actually, if we look from another perspective, like a more open perspective, we can see that it's all connected.
It's all connected. Makes complete sense.
All shades of the same color.
Yeah. So I'm learning how to do this because I'm telling this, but then I behave still in the old way. But I'm paying attention. For me, right now, I'm just observing. I'm in this situation where I can just zoom out a little bit and observe. My feelings, my behavior, and for the moment it's okay. Like just observing, it's okay. It's the first step in order to change.
It
be
is
aware. Observing, it's okay. It's the first step in order to change.
It is it is strange, but sometimes it helps a lot if I detach myself from my sense of self. You know, if I forget it is all about me and just take a look at how I act and how everything worked, then I can dive in back with more clarity. Sometimes the hurt comes from the lack of clarity, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel like sometimes when I cannot label emotions or when I don't find the answer inside me, I feel the pain. So that's why for me it's important to open up and share, you know.
Sorry.
It's okay. Art, we can enlighten more and more the situations and we can see clearly. Yeah. Sometimes it's just some dust, you know, because of course we are going deep, right? We are in this, we are trying to, to grow every day, you know, in this spiritual path, in this personal growth. And so I think it's a good sign actually. When we see the dust, it's a good sign because it means that we are moving, we are transforming, we are looking underneath the carpet. The carpet.
At least we're paying attention.
So, Sananda,
Yeah.
what do you think about? Because I also think that there is a balance, right, between auto-responsibility and support and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So, my question for you is, when do you think it's fine, it's okay to ask for support, and when it's better not to ask for support?
Well, if I am completely self-responsible, in my answer, I would say that the ideal thing is that we never ask for support.
Uh-huh.
But I agree with you that it's part of self-responsibility to ask for support. It may seem like a paradox, but I will break it down for you to understand that why it looks like a paradox, but it's not. In a sense that we are all walkers, and healing happens as we walk in life, right? There's a lot of confusion in life, right? There's a lot of confusion about spirituality when people believe that spirituality is something that we can learn out of a book. We can learn out of a book, but that thing that we learn must come into fruition, into movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to be spiritual is to walk the path, and to walk the path we will discover our limitations, our limits.
Mm-hmm.
So I am striving to be absolute, to be as the divine, to be complete in myself, to be whole. In that state I never need outside help, but that state is something that fluctuates itself. So if I'm completely in the present moment, I'm completely at peace with myself, and I'm surrendering to every circumstance from my past, present and future, I will be absolutely capable of dealing with who I am. And everything fits into place and life feels wonderful. But that moment, it's a flow, right? It's a flow, and then life happens. And then life happening to me is the walk of healing. So when something happens to me, it's life expanding my own limits. And because of the nature of expansion of limits is to test how much and how far can we go. There's moments that we will break down, right? So what I'm trying to say is that although the focus is to be in a state of no need, right? When we are being tested, so when we are flowing life and arises situations, right? And then I remember what Lilith said, that we should create space for all emotions. This is the goal, right? Because when I am completely in the present moment, I am surrendering to every emotion instead of identifying and reacting to it. Right? So what I'm trying to say, if I'm being able to create space to every emotion, every thought, every event, I am in samadhi, I am in a state of illumination, I am in an expanded state of awareness, state of illumination, I am in an expanded state of awareness, everything flows through me, I don't need help. And need help doesn't even make sense. Why help? Why support? Life is blissful, right? Everything is flowing perfectly. And then happens something, and I completely embrace it, and I dance with the situation. And okay, someone comes and swear or curse me, and I say okay. Someone comes and talks about politics, and I no longer believe in outside things in this sense. So I would just dance with them, and okay, and then goes, and then something happens that triggers a wound that I am still overcoming, a trigger from childhood. Someone called me a geek, and I felt very hurted when I was young being called a geek. Oh, yeah. Right? And that's just example, it's not true, but whatever, right? So, and then that geek I cannot embrace completely love everything that I am and everything that arises. I can see the hurt, and I can still create a soft spot in me that the emotion will be there, the reaction will be there, but then I will flow and dance with the reaction.
Uh-huh.
So when to ask help will be the next stage. When I'm kind of blindsided, because there's a lot of things happening at the same time, life is overwhelming me, a lot of situations, and I'm kind of mixing one situation after another. So someone triggered me, I was too focused on something else, occupied, my mind,
So you were not present.
doing something,
A
or
lot of tabs open.
yeah, I was a lot of tabs open, yes, gestalts, right, as the Germans would say, the gestalt therapy. I had a lot of tabs open, Lilith said perfectly, So my browser is full, okay? I'm overloaded. And I no longer have the capacity to differentiate what is me, what is the other. Everything becomes an overflow, overwhelming. Then I need to stop and go back to clarity. In those moments, help, I think it's a blissful thing. Capacity to differentiate what is me, what is the other. Everything becomes an overflow, overwhelming. Then I need to stop and go back to clarity. In those moments, help, I think it's a blissful thing. Right? So, in a sense, it's not about a one answer to all situations. Is for one situation, support is poison, because it makes no sense. To believe I need support when I am enlightened is going back. But when I am overwhelmed, it is medicine, it's perfect, it's what I require. So this is a moment-to-moment thing, and I think all the healers, even one that is very advanced on their path, there is moments of overwhelming. And if they are not being overwhelmed by life, because they are stagnated and they are not exposing themselves to continuous growth, because I think that's the point of being in a duality realm.
That's part of our human nature.
Information, but in one sense we are already in a dimension, part of us is already in a realm of reality that they are unified and perfect. So we are already unified and perfect in one level, in one layer. There's nothing wrong with us, never was and never will be. We are forever perfect, right? That state is a higher dimension of self. And we chose to be in a lower dimension where there is duality, where we are separated into two aspects, and the dance between these two aspects create all the flow of reality, all of creation. And so I'm saying that we chose to be here, to be in a state of flow. To be in a state of flow, why would I choose to be in a state of flow instead of perpetual bliss? Because there is something that arises in flow, that is creativity, movement, right? So if I am completely stuck in that blissful state without movement, maybe I should just go back to that dimension, because there's no point in being here. Flow, that is creativity, movement, right? So if I am completely stuck in that blissful state without movement, maybe I should just go back to that dimension, because there's no point in being here. Makes sense? So being here is about these boundaries and limits being probed. Like there's circumstances in life that is provoking us. When we are in lower vibration, those situations are asking us to transcend. When we are in higher vibration, these circumstances that test us are calling us to be creative. So it's expanding our creativity. So I think when a soul downloads itself in this realm, it's all about wounds and consciousness and developing awareness. And as it expands and grows, is about manifesting and creating and dancing with these emotions flowing. They are not. I should not judge emotions according to some kind of outside. Oh, my mama told me anger is bad, or I should not cry. What you're crying, baby? So we should never label emotions or good or bad. They are all flow, and the flow, they symbolize something, right? A need is being not attended, right? Like Vinicius said, right? And then we need to always take care of that emotion, embracing it. And the most higher form of dealing with it is understand that I am connected to that perfect layer. So I can bring this sensation of perfection back to my body without anything manifesting outside. But I have to be very conscious and aware to do that, and it's completely doable. It's even kind of easy after you do it for a time. But inside, overwhelmed by situations. So someone coming and helping us to fulfill a need kind of bring us back to balance, where we can actually do that by ourselves. So okay, now I hold you in place. Now I can release you. Can go back. So, but there is the tricky part, that being reactive to emotions, the reactivity to emotional states, something that always create more of that emotion that we are reacting. So if I'm feeling sad or angry, and I act from sadness, if I act from fear, if I act from anger, I will be creating more of those situations where I will feel validated to feel anger, validated to feel sadness. So I just want to differentiate that flowing the energy doesn't mean to express it as it is.
Allowing yourself to feel what is popping up inside
Doesn't mean to express it as it is.
allowing yourself to feel what is popping up inside doesn't mean to act upon.
Yes. And then there is this part of how we can be self-responsible about our needs. I will ask Lilith, how will you take care of your needs inside when it's required? What's your inner process?
Yeah, I was hearing you and I was considering that there is a fine line between self-responsibility and asking for support. And for me the difference is if I go to anyone to talk and ask for support, waiting that they will solve the situation for me, it's not going to work.
Perfect.
You know, if I'm struggling in a relationship about one specific something happened, I'm not being self-responsible. So for me it's a lot about it happens in layers to take care of myself inside the situations.
Okay.
I need to, so the situation happened already, right? I need to take an honest look of what version of myself happened in that situation. Arises, yeah. So who I was in that situation, and I need to be really raw about my reading. So putting my ego aside and everything is about growth now. It's about understanding myself and how I behave, so I can change my behavior next time. And after I did that, then I can go and talk about it again. But that doesn't mean every time that then I'm in a space already that I can talk without being identified. After I did that, then I can go and talk about it again. But that doesn't mean every time that then I'm in a space already that I can talk without being identified. And really reaching a solution about it. So sometimes I go, so I have a como fala reprise, the situation plays itself again. You know, and then I just see it happen again with a new perspective, and then I can go back to myself and really see, okay, this is me, this is mine, this is me in this situation, and this and this, it's how the other person behaves in the situation. So I have more clarity about what's really mine and what's the other reacting to me with their conditionments, their struggles, their wounds. So I have a little bit more clarity, and then I can try to find a solution after all this. So now is a little bit more clarity of who I was in that situation. I can try to see what need was not being fulfilled, and then I can propose some ways of reorganizing stuff, or how we can behave in a different way that it's good for both, you know. Then I can try to find a zero-sum game.
When you say this, it comes to my mind something that makes this subject much more interesting, complex, beautiful, but maybe new for someone that is listening. That is my ability to magnetize people around me, to do stuff to me. And that for me is something that it came to me many years ago when I was living in a community, and I was meditating for 3 hours. I go to the kitchen, there was a lady there cleaning the dishes, and I came close to her and I felt like cursing her and telling a lot of bad stuff to her. And for what and telling a lot of bad stuff to her. And for where is this coming from? I feel I'm happy with this person, I'm happy with me. And then I walked back a little bit further away, and I noticed that it was something in her trying to move energy through me. It was the first time that I was awake to that, right? So, and then I started to see how people would magnetize me. And it took me much more years to see how I would magnetize people to punish me. You know, to punish me for some kind of guilt or something like that.
Can I ask you, why do we do that?
Wow, that's a very complex question. I will give it back to you. Why you think we do that?
This is not fair. Well, maybe when we lack for self-love. Because then if I love myself fully, like you said before, my shadows and my lights, you know, everything in like I allow myself to accept and express myself freely in the complete sense that I am, then maybe I don't feel the need to push someone to tell me something, you know, with anger or I don't know, with something else. Because if I am in peace and happy with myself, then maybe there is the balance, you know. There is this balance, and the energy is, like you said before, the energy is flowing. There is the balance, and I don't feel the need to move this energy through using another person.
Perfect.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but exactly what you said, and I think that's the beauty of me meditation every day in the morning, to be able to move those energies in myself instead of needing that special someone, that good friend, or someone that you know have a relationship to be that person to me. And you ask me why we do this. Fear, it's a very valid emotion. Also guilt. But guilt and fear, it's a very prolific way to express power and domination. So when we are young, a parent can make us feel guilt about things that we do in order to have power over us, to make us move in the direction that they want. They don't do this because they are bad people. They do this because that's how they were moved. It's because sometimes they were desperate to protect us. And they were in their mind, to be a good parent was to desperate to protect us. In their mind, to be a good parent was to scare us or to make us feel guilt not to do that again. But then we are conditioned to have that emotion stuck in our body, especially if we cannot express it freely. Okay?
Yes.
So what happens is that we have cycles of repetition of that emotional state. Then we will need people in our life to play that part in order for me to process or to move guilt or to move punishment or to move, you know?
This is what we learned.
Yeah, so there is a recurrent pattern that we are fixated upon, and we move energy constantly in the same way, keep repeating the same situations. Lilith, very well told.
Yeah,
so.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, of course, please.
I have this feeling of the goal here is to find a new way to, and I just had the feeling now that if we are looking at it and not the best
angle.
Yeah, because we are still looking at it as, okay, us human beings, we need to overcome all these wrong feelings, wounds, so we can reach our higher self. And just realize now that we are our higher self, experiencing this. So if we could just enjoy the experience, doesn't matter what it comes from, because it's about the experience, right? It's about experiencing all the shades of all the colors, of all the vibrations. So if it's about experience, there is no right and wrong. If there is no right and wrong, no good or bad, there is no duality. If there is no duality, there is no ego. If there is no duality, there is no ego. So you can just be patient with yourself while you go through life, learning the experiences, always paying attention of how everything is affecting you, and then everything is just experience of growth. So everything is okay. So all the tension, everything.
This is a very powerful door to a state of complete surrendering. At the same time, there is clearly a calling, a song from the divine, from the collective, to raise up, to elevate us, you know. And in that sense, we are still doing exactly what you said, but from a state of freedom. Because I think what is happening is that a lot of us, and includes myself, a long time of my life, I was blinded and lost in my own creations. And I think the calling now is for us to keep consciousness. So instead of
that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's not about don't bothering about anything. It's about doing everything with extreme conscious.
Yes.
Because every step on the way is about getting to know yourself and this and what how you're living with and how it's affecting you. And
that's why it's okay to feel fear or guilt. They are valid, important emotions to guide us in our creative process.
Yeah, so you should embrace it. If you magnetize someone and someone is really not polite with you, and embrace it. You know, okay, so this person is showing me what is going on inside myself, and it's not comfortable, it's not nice, it's not a comfortable experience, but it's showing me something that I'm vibrating. So it just called my attention to what I'm doing now, and I was not conscious enough, so now I can pay attention, and now I can do something about it. It's called my attention to what I'm doing now, and I was not conscious enough, so now I can pay attention, and now I can do something about it. If there wasn't anyone around me, I would be lost in that, and I would never pay attention. So there's a little bit, at least when we talk about magnetizing people, there is a lot of guilt that I feel involved in the subject. So, how I stopped to do it. And actually, if you are conscious about how you're feeling, it will happen less and less and less. And if it happens, celebrate, embrace it. Okay, if this happened is because I needed it. It was a perfect way to learn something about myself.
But even the guilt about magnetizing is something to surrender about. Because magnetizing is something that we'll do all the time. And we'll keep doing it. And that happens for any emotion, any frequency. So and that's the beauty of self-responsibility. Because that same person that being wonderful to me may be not wonderful to someone else, but it's not that we create this sense of identity and believe that person is that based on our experience with them, but they are a bigger scope. They can be everything. No, even a villain, like we call like to villainize people. They can be wonderful for someone if they're being magnetized in that direction, and there is space inside of them to be that. So the beauty and the ugly, although I wouldn't like to put these labels, but language fails in that sense, right? What we enjoy, what we don't enjoy, okay, our preferences will be mirrored out, so we will be magnetizing anyway. I think the calling here is when I'm hurted, and what is being self-responsible when asked support is to know how to move this consciously and going out of the part of the victim and being to be doing it. You're gonna be doing it anyway, but if I'm doing it, why not do it graciously? And I will ask Vinicius, because our first tool in our belt in Atmayur is the state of love. And how the state of love helped you, Vinny, in this process of even to embrace magnetization or all of this?
The state of love, how it helped me to embrace all of this talk, let's say. That I saw, what Lilith said, it makes a lot of sense. That nothing is wrong or right, bad or good. It's just
what it is.
What you then connected, that it's preferences. It's from the free will. You have your preferences. Like, what do you prefer? To feel fear, to feel guilt or shame, or you prefer to feel love and peace? And it's from the free will. You have your preferences. Like, what do you prefer? To feel fear, to feel guilt or shame, or you prefer to feel love and peace and enlightenment? Like me, when I am in a very high frequency, I am already experiencing love, peace, and all these higher and more subtle energies and feelings and emotions, right? But when I'm in a low frequency, the same energies, they express themselves within me in other ways that we call fear and all of these things. So I prefer to feel the higher ones, you know.
Oh, this is your preference.
Yeah, exactly. And to have that, in order to have that, I need love, because love is the key, is the balance, is the, like, it's the middle. It's where the fear encounter and see clearly what I really want. And when I'm not in that state, I cannot see clearly, so I don't make choices. And then through that, like now my path is love. And I'm self-responsible when I'm loving myself. And if I'm loving myself, I choose the higher ones.
I can see clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And when I need help, first I love myself. Otherwise, what will I magnetize from people?
Wow, that's a very good point, huh?
Exactly. What will I magnetize? Not love. You know? And that's what I don't want people to do with me. So it can be a bit selfish, or like I'm thinking about myself, but I don't want people to do that to me. So in order to not have that, I try to work myself the most I can to see where are my limits, and when I'm there in the limit, where I know that maybe I can't come back to the place I want, then I ask for help. You know,
Beautiful.
It's like otherwise, like if you think about a mountain, that's what I saw when Sananda was talking. Like, you think about the mountain, like you have had a guide for the first tenth of the mountain, like the first piece, you know, and then you love that guide, and then you're there going further, going to the top, but then you think about that guide, and then you come back to him, and you come back to him and or her. And you come back and you're just doing the same little piece, you know? And that asking for help in this way is not self-responsible, because you're using that person's energy to help you in order to move that energy. But that person taught you. And that person, if you look, is inside you, you know? And then this, like, life is just like going up this mountain and constructing this beautiful person that is a fraction of everybody that you met within you. And then you don't need the same guide over and over and then you don't need the same guide over and over and over again to walk that path. If you fall, you can do that again, or you can help people to do that.
Beautiful.
And that's becoming a healer or a guide or a guru, you know?
Amazing. It's a very, very deep, profound answer, brother.
I do believe that if you have enough patience to endure the discomfort of any situation, you can grow a lot by yourself. But you just need to allow yourself to stay in the discomfortable situation, feelings, you know?
Yeah.
Sit with them
Seeing
until
like,
you can
I hurt my
finally...
knee, and then just like checking what happened with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you have patience, more and more I feel that living this life in a conscious way requires a lot of patience. So just sit with it, allow, is everything okay? If you keep looking at it, you will see something, because then you will be not judging and not in a resistant mode. You are going to allow in your higher self more, and they have all the answers.
Yes.
Right? So if you don't need anyone, if you need help, ask in a responsible way. Nobody's going to solve the problem for you. And if you have patience and sit with yourself for long enough, you will find answers.
So the need for help, for support, it happens more when we are in a very tricky edge situations, but the best thing is always to look for self-guidance.
We are lost in the lie, we are lost in the illusion, we are still telling stories about what happened instead of just...
And that brings something that for me it's I think it's the answer is very well rounded and given, right? What we propose ourselves to talk about today.
Yeah.
But I can see that there is this aspect of asking for help that you said, it's very, very profound, that I will magnetize the person. I'll be bringing an energy to the person that I'm asking for help that will hardly bring what I need. But we can find people of integrity. We can find people that are so deep in a state of love that they will not go out of their state of love to mirror the lower frequencies. And sometimes this is very tricky when we ask support for people that we are very much intertwined, that we are fusioned in a sense. right? Especially people that we have sexual connection, that we have a lot of wires of energy connecting our bodies. It's much easier to be fusion in that state. So if I come in a state of a lot of pain and suffering, and it's much harder for the partner not to be a mirror of that suffering and pain, right? So that requires a lot of integrity from the people that we are asking. So I think it's something to be aware of, right? Not respect, as Lilith said very well, we should not expect the person to. We can be part of the equation that is the problem, or part of the equation that is the solution. You know, and to have awareness how we are affecting the people that we are asking support of, what we are bringing to the table, our emotions and energies, right? And then comes that beautiful sentence of Einstein that helped me so many times in my life that I will keep repeating, that the conscious that perceives a problem is not the same level of consciousness that solves the problem. So we need another level of consciousness to solve it, right? And another level of frequency. And in the end, it's all about frequency. Right?
Yeah.
How you describe it will show you everything. If you're still describing as a problem,
It already
if
tells
you're
something, right?
describing as a situation that you need to solve,
Super.
if you're describing it as experience that you can grow,
Or opportunity.
opportunity to grow, opportunity to grow. So how you're describing the situation, it will tell you everything about which state you are.
It's already part of your guidance, right? How you're guiding yourself inside.
Opportunity to grow, opportunity to grow. So how you're describing the situation, it will tell you everything about which state you are.
It's already part of your guidance, right? How you're guiding yourself inside the situation.
So
sorry.
No, it could be it could change, maybe like asking for help. Then it would be sharing to see how can I grow, something like that. You know, it even changes the perspective of the question. But what were we gonna say?
No, I have an image that I'd like to use. That we choose the pair of glasses that we want to wear.
I know
every time, and sometimes I really imagine myself for real wearing this.
It's perfect. Yeah.
What should I choose today? This pair of glasses. Okay.
It was one of my first big realizations about which was in the beginning of our relationship. And I would even said that I was going to tattoo a pair of glasses on my wrist. Yeah, pink one, because I always stuff that I could.
Yeah.
And since then I have using all my shades of
Glasses.
eyeglasses.
Yeah, but it's important to remember that we choose in every instant, in every second. We choose.
Yeah.
The narrator. The narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We choose everything.
Perfect.
So when we are hurt, it calls to go inside to see our narrative, our pair of glasses, our frequency of our vibration, how we can do a self-care with a deep, profound surrendering that everything it's okay, all emotion is accepted. Everything that is flowing, it's part of the experience of being alive. It's not about
power that you are the only one that is going to be able to.
It's not about staying always in the same frequency, in the same emotion, the same energy. It's about accepting all of them and guiding back to the ones you favor. It's embracing all the flows of life, the wheels of Dharma, let's say, the ups and downs of life. Dharma, let's say, the ups and downs of life, right? Of duality realm that has this contrast that's always inviting us to create and to elevate. I think that is a very beautiful summarization of our beautiful conversation.
Yes.
Wow, beautiful. Guys, any final words? Maybe each one of us give a final word of advice or sharing with our beloved friends in the world.
I would say that it helps a lot if you identify your sense of value. Of
the attached value from...
Yeah, the attached value of how you think, how you act, how you behave, your conditionments. You're not really any of it. So it helps a lot in the stressful situations to detach yourself from the external sense of value.
Perfect. I want to say breathe. Breathe a bit. Give some. Yeah, in the Portuguese version of this podcast, I said it like 5 times.
Yeah, it's always a good advice, man.
Breathe a bit and think if you're asking for help to get better and to go higher, or if you're asking for help to feel more hurt and to be suffering a bit more. If you breathe a bit before that, you see what's the melody that is within you. So that's it. That's it.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Aho.
Beautiful. Alright.
For me, that is also, I'm telling this because it's relating with me, and have the courage to stop.
Mm-hmm. Aho.
I'm working on that. And wow.
Yeah.
We can really see and feel everything. But of course, it takes courage to do that. That's why the courage to stop.
Yeah.
But I think this is the way to be aware, because this is the first step, the first point. Being aware, and then act out of awareness.
First. Beautiful. My invitation is all about perspective. To remember that you are not it. You are not this. This is just a playground. Life is a game of playfulness. And flow with life, man. Flow with life and have perspective. When things get too serious, detach, release, let go of control. And use the beautiful advice of breathe deeply, be aware, be joyful about life, and just go with it. Be joyful about life, and just go with it. Aho! Thank you guys for being here. One more beautiful podcast.